Chosen one, this message has reached you at the perfect time. No accidents, no coincidences. This is divine timing in full motion. You are guided here because God is about to transfer wealth into your hands, and your spirit needed to hear this now. What you've been carrying in silence is about to be honored in the open. The struggle wasn't in vain, it was the setup for your overflow. You've been through a season of lack, of confusion, of watching others rise while you remained hidden. In silence, you questioned the delays. You wondered why your faith wasn't turning into fruit. But let me tell you something sacred and powerful. The struggle was never a punishment, it was preparation. Everything you've lost, every door that shut in your face, every tear you cried in secret, it all had divine strategy behind it. You weren't forgotten. You were being positioned. God is about to transfer wealth into your hands. Not just financial wealth, but spiritual wisdom, influence, and divine access. The delay was the disguise. The process was the protection. And the pain, that was the proof that you're the one. This is your moment. Let's break it down in 7 powerful chapters. Before we dive in, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, because this is a message every chosen one needs to hear. If you feel the power of this message resonating with you, drop the number 77 in the comments. This isn't just a number. It's a powerful signal to the universe that you're aligned with divine truth and ready to claim the blessing that's rightfully yours. Only those who are truly chosen will stay until the end. And those who do will unlock deeper understanding, sharpen their spiritual awareness, and claim the blessings hidden within this message. And remember, this is knowledge that unfolds layer by layer. Rewatch this video as many times as you need to align your mind, body, and spirit with the truth being revealed. Each time you return, you'll notice something new, something vital that you may have missed the first time. Now let's dive in. Number 1, the wilderness wasn't wasted. You didn't go through years of hardship for no reason. Every sleepless night, every unanswered prayer, every season of silence was a chapter in the story God was writing through your life. The wilderness wasn't just a detour, it was destiny in disguise. It was never meant to break you, but to build you in ways you couldn't understand at the time. You see, the wilderness isn't where purpose dies, it's where purpose is born. While you watched others elevate, you remained in the shadows, confused and weary. But God had you hidden, not forgotten. He was doing his deepest work in you, away from the spotlight, healing your heart, sharpening your discernment, and stripping away every crutch you were leaning on. The pain you endured wasn't wasted. It was woven into the very fabric of your calling. In the wilderness, you weren't just surviving, you were being refined. You were being taught how to trust in the unseen, how to walk by faith and not by sight. You were being trained to hear God without the noise of the world, without the distraction of performance, and without the safety of comfort. While others ran to the applause, you were being positioned in the stillness. God didn't want you to just know his promises. He wanted you to know his presence. You learned how to manage lack with grace. You learned how to smile when you were empty. You learned how to give when you didn't have much. And those lessons were priceless. Because now, as God prepares to release the next chapter, a chapter of overflow, of opportunity, of open doors, you won't crumble under the weight. You'll carry it with purpose. You'll steward it with wisdom. You'll remember the days of not having, and it'll keep you humble. You'll recognize the people who walked away, and you'll bless them without bitterness. God had to strip away the false so the real could rise. He had to tear down what was built on insecurity, people-pleasing, and fear, so he could establish you on a foundation of truth. That's why some friendships didn't last. That's why some opportunities fell through. That's why you kept hitting walls. Not because you weren't enough, but because God was saying, not this way, not with them, not yet. The wilderness was a refining fire. It burned away your need to be liked. It killed the parts of you that wanted to rush ahead of God. It taught you to sit in silence, to worship in weakness, and to stand firm, even when everything around you was shaking. And now, that unshakable version of you, the one who emerged from the struggle, that's who God is blessing. That's who he's elevating. Most people avoid the wilderness. They look for escape routes. but you stayed. You fought through the fog. You grew in the dark. And because of that, you carry a strength that can't be faked and a depth that can't be taught. Your roots run deep now. That's why when the wind of blessing blows, you won't be moved. You'll stand fully aware that this moment was birthed from every painful process you thought was pointless. But it wasn't pointless. It was preparation. It wasn't wasted. It was weaponized. And now, the same God who walked with you through the valley is about to lead you into the land of promise. Not just to bless you, but to prove to the world that he was working all along. The wilderness wasn't the end. It was the beginning of your becoming. So lift your head, chosen one. What broke others made you. What was meant to bury you only rooted you deeper. And now you're ready. Not just for the wealth, but for the responsibility, the impact, and the divine purpose that comes with it. This was never about money. It was about maturity. And you, faithful servant, have passed the test. Number 2, you were always the vessel. You were born marked, chosen, set apart from the very beginning. Even before you had the language to understand your uniqueness, there was something different about you. The way you felt deeply, the way you questioned things others ignored, the way you carried weight in your spirit that didn't seem to belong to a child. All of that was divine evidence. The pain you've endured didn't make you the chosen one. It simply revealed what was already there. Long before the disappointments, the betrayals, the loneliness, before any of that, God had already placed his hand on your life. He didn't pick you randomly. He picked you because he knew what he put inside you. The vision, the burden, the calling, the unusual strength to rise when others stayed down. All of it is part of a sacred assignment. You were built for something greater than just survival. You were built to carry purpose. That business idea that won't leave you alone, that creative gift that stirs in your spirit, that dream that keeps waking you up at night. It was never random. It's not just ambition or imagination. It's a divine deposit, something heaven trusted you to birth on earth. You didn't come here empty. You came equipped, chosen to be a vessel that would carry transformation into places others are afraid to go. You always felt different because you are. While others blended in, you stood out without even trying. You were never meant to fit into systems built to contain what God placed in you. You weren't overlooked. You were hidden for protection, hidden for preparation. God didn't want the world to shape you before he did. That's why doors closed. That's why relationships didn't last. That's why certain things that worked for others fell apart when you tried them. You didn't lose your way. God blocked every wrong turn. He didn't let you settle. He didn't let you succeed in places that would have shrunk your purpose even when you didn't understand it. God was redirecting you. Every time you felt rejected, you were actually being rerouted. Every time you were delayed, you were actually being divinely timed. Because when you're the vessel, the assignment is too important to risk compromise. God wasn't just interested in your comfort. He was focused on your capacity. You had to learn how to carry weight, how to withstand pressure, how to keep going when everything in you wanted to give up. That training wasn't punishment, it was positioning. And now the transfer is coming to you, not because you're better than anyone, but because you were trusted with something sacred. God saw your heart when no one else did. He saw how you remained humble when you could have sought revenge. He saw how you gave when you had nothing left. He saw how you stayed faithful when everything was falling apart. That's why he chose you, because you'll steward the blessing with integrity, not ego. You won't worship the wealth. You'll use it to do what you were born to do. You won't hoard it. You'll pour it out into the lives of those who need it. You'll give glory to God, not self. You've always been the vessel. Not perfect, but willing. Not the loudest, but the most surrendered. And that's what God honors. You carry something eternal, something weighty, something heaven approved. And now the time has come for what's been hidden in you to be revealed through you. Don't doubt your value. Don't question your calling. The evidence is all around you. The resistance, the resilience, the revelations, all signs that God's been with you every step of the way. And now, He's about to pour into you what the wilderness prepared you to carry. You are the vessel, chosen not just to receive, but to release. Not just to be blessed, but to bless. And everything you've gone through has been proof that heaven has placed something powerful inside you. And now the world is about to see it. Number 3, the wilderness was a gift. You didn't ask for the wilderness. You didn't pray for the dry season, the silence, the stripping away. But it came anyway, slowly at first, then all at once. Suddenly, what used to satisfy you no longer fit. What used to comfort you now felt distant. You looked around, and everything familiar had faded, and all that was left was you, your questions, and God's quiet. But that quiet wasn't neglect. It was intimacy. That isolation wasn't rejection. It was preparation. God didn't abandon you in the wilderness. He invited you deeper, because the wilderness is not a punishment for the unworthy. It is a sacred classroom for the chosen. In the wilderness, God stripped away the noise so you could finally hear his whisper. He removed the crowd so you could discover the depth of your calling. He allowed the hunger so you would learn to feast on his word. You wanted the breakthrough, but he gave you the breaking. Not to harm you, but to make you whole. It was in the wilderness that your identity was clarified. Not by titles, applause, or success, but by stillness, surrender, and trust. You didn't need the platform. You needed the presence. You didn't need recognition. You needed revelation. And that's exactly what he gave you. He showed you that provision doesn't always look like plenty. Sometimes provision looks like just enough to get through the day. Sometimes it looks like hidden manna, unexpected, unrequested, but always on time. He was showing you how to depend on him, not on results. He was building endurance in your spirit and obedience in your steps. Now you understand. The wilderness wasn't a detour. It was the destination for that season. It was the place where God uprooted your fear and planted boldness, where he removed the false and revealed the unshakable. You were being pruned, not punished. You were being emptied, not forgotten. And though it felt like loss, it was actually alignment. Because of the wilderness, you now walk with quiet confidence. You pray with depth. You move with purpose. You're not swayed by the crowd because you've already walked alone and survived. You're not dependent on the outcome because you've learned to worship in the waiting. You've tasted the stillness of God, and now you carry his presence not just in public but in private. The wilderness shaped you, and what was shaped in secret, God is now preparing to reveal in the open. You didn't just survive the wilderness, you were transformed by it. And that transformation is what qualifies you for what's coming next. Number 4, the struggle trained your spirit. Let's be real. None of this has been easy. The pain was real. The nights you spent alone wondering if you'd ever catch a break were real. The tears on your pillow, the silence from heaven, the bills piling up when you barely had enough to eat, the people who left without explanation, the friends who turned into strangers. The weight of it all, the pressure that made it hard to even breathe. That wasn't just life happening. It was divine training. You weren't just surviving hardship, you were being forged in it. The fire that nearly consumed you was the same fire that refined you. Every delay wasn't a denial, it was preparation. You thought you were just struggling, but you were being shaped, formed, elevated, because in the midst of all that pain, something deeper began to happen. You started to see differently. You stopped reacting to everything and started discerning. You stopped begging God for relief and started asking him for revelation. You no longer move out of panic. You move with purpose. That's what the struggle did. It matured you. It took you beyond surface faith and into deep trust. You learned how to hold on to God, not because you felt him, but because you knew him. When the emotions faded, the endurance remained. You were stretched, broken, emptied, but in that process, your spirit was strengthened. The struggle stripped away your pride. It made you confront your need for control. It humbled you in ways that nothing else could. You learned how to be still. You learned how to stand in storms. You learned how to war in prayer, not just for blessings, but for clarity. You began to desire alignment more than applause. You stopped chasing validation and started chasing God's voice. You've outgrown your old mindset. You've outgrown desperation. You no longer move for likes or for approval or to prove your worth. You move because you're led. You walk in discernment. You listen for the whisper of the Holy Spirit, and if He says stay still, you stay still. If He says move, you move, even if it doesn't make sense. That's spiritual maturity. And you didn't get there by accident, you got there through struggle. That's why this next season isn't just about the blessing, it's about your authority. You won't be walking like a survivor. You'll be walking like someone who's been trained by God Himself. You'll carry peace in chaos, wisdom in warfare. You'll walk into rooms and shift atmospheres not because you're loud, but because you're aligned. And now the blessing is coming, not just material wealth, but divine strategy, fresh ideas, new doors, right connections. And it's coming now because it no longer defines you. It doesn't own your identity. You've already discovered who you are without it. You know your value isn't in a title, a bank account, or a platform. Your value is in your spirit. You've proven you can be trusted. Trusted not to misuse the blessing. Trusted not to idolize it. Trusted to carry it with purpose, not pride. And that's why God is ready to release it, because you're no longer ruled by the blessing. You rule over it. The struggle trained your spirit. It wasn't wasted. It wasn't meaningless. It was the sacred classroom where heaven prepared you for your calling. And now that your spirit has been trained, you're ready. Ready for the blessing, ready for the wait, ready for what's next. Number 5, you had to lose to learn the assignment. Sometimes the only way God can teach you who you truly are is to strip away everything you thought you needed, not to punish you, but to prepare you. He allowed the loss, the job, the relationship, the approval, even your sense of identity, not because you were unworthy, but because He was calling you higher. You thought those things defined you. You thought they were the source. But God had to show you they were just tools, not your truth. You see, when you have too many crutches, you forget you were made to walk by faith. So God, in His mercy, removed the crutches. And you didn't collapse. You learned to stand alone. Yes, confused at first, yes. But then something powerful happened. You discovered your voice. You found your strength. You realized that if everything could be taken and you were still breathing, still fighting, still believing, then nothing external could define your worth again. You learned to pray when no one was clapping, to keep going when no one was watching. You learned how to be consistent in obscurity, to worship not for outcomes, but because of who God is. And most of all, you learned how to obey when you were empty, when it didn't make sense, when it hurt, when you were misunderstood. That kind of obedience carries weight in heaven. It's the kind of faith that moves mountains and breaks cycles. And now you're walking in clarity. Your vision is no longer fogged by distractions. You're no longer moved by public opinion or trapped by fear of rejection. You've been pruned, refined, and re-entered. And with that clarity comes divine direction. You're not chasing every opportunity. You're discerning what's aligned with your assignment. You're not jumping at every open door. You're asking, God, is this you? And here's the truth. Once you walk in clarity and direction, divine acceleration follows. The time you thought you lost, God redeems it. The years you spent in struggle, He multiplies the fruit in a moment. Where others have to strive, you simply align. You don't force it. The wealth finds you in obedience, because now your posture has changed. You're not chasing blessings. You're positioned for them. You're not trying to manipulate outcomes. You're surrendering to the process. And that posture invites favor. It attracts opportunity. It prepares you for sustainable success, not temporary applause. The loss had a purpose. It was painful, yes, but it was a teacher. It broke your dependence on what was fleeting and reconnected you with what was eternal. It showed you that God's provision isn't tied to a paycheck, a person, or a platform. His provision is tied to purpose, and when you're aligned with that purpose, heaven backs you. Your yes to God, even when it cost you comfort, was the key that unlocked everything. You may not have understood it then, but you'll see it now. The doors that are opening, the peace you carry, the discernment you walk in, it all came from the fire you endured. And because of that fire, you're no longer fragile. God didn't just want to bless you, He wanted to trust you. And now, because you've proven faithful in the valley, He's about to elevate you on the mountain. Wealth isn't just coming to you, it's coming through you, because He knows you won't idolize it. You'll use it. You'll multiply it. You'll bless others with it. You had to lose to learn, and now you're ready to lead. Number 6, the breaking was the birthing. What felt like the breaking of you was never meant to destroy you. It was the beginning of something sacred being born within you. You thought you were being shattered, pulled apart by disappointment, rejection, and grief. But God was carefully allowing the pieces that no longer served your calling to fall away, so that what remained would be holy, refined, and unshakable. You cried because you didn't understand, because it hurt more than words could say. But heaven understood exactly what it was doing. You weren't being buried, you were being planted. And though the darkness of that season felt suffocating, though the silence felt like abandonment, something was happening beneath the surface. Your roots were growing deeper. Your spirit was growing stronger. Your heart was being realigned and your identity was being clarified. God wasn't ignoring your cries. He was answering with transformation. You wanted rescue, but He offered revelation. You prayed for escape, but He gave you endurance. Because the promise on your life was never small. And to carry something eternal, you had to be strengthened internally. The breaking stripped away what was shallow and superficial. It forced you to lean in, to listen closer, to search the heart of God, instead of the approval of people. It taught you that strength is not found in ease, but in surrender. That true authority is birthed in the fire, not on the stage. And now you know, what tried to break you was actually building you. That chapter of crushing, it was divine construction. You were being positioned for a release far greater than your pain. You see it now. The oil of anointing flows only from what has been pressed. The calling is costly, but the cost has produced character. You are not the same. You've emerged with vision, with clarity, with conviction. What once shook you now grows you. What once hurt you now fuels you. Because the breaking didn't end you, it birthed the version of you that can carry the mantle with both strength and humility. This is your birthing moment, not of fame, but of impact, not of performance, but of purpose. You've graduated from surviving to stewarding, and heaven is now entrusting you with influence because the fire did not destroy you. It refined you. You didn't just make it through. You were made in it. So rise. Not as someone who's broken, but as someone who's been reborn. You carry oil. You carry authority. You carry a testimony that was birthed in the breaking. And now, the world is about to witness what heaven already affirmed. You were never just being broken. You were being born into your true assignment. Number 7, now walk in the transfer with authority. Chosen one, the wait is over. What you've been sensing, what you've been praying for, what you've been holding on to through tears and tests, it's here. You're not just approaching the promise, you are standing in it. This isn't a season of waiting anymore. It's a season of walking. And you're not walking timidly, you're walking with authority. This wealth transfer is not just about money, it's about mantles. It's about divine positioning. It's about being entrusted with what others mishandled. God is not just giving you wealth. He's giving you the wisdom to multiply it, the peace to enjoy it, the discernment to protect it, and the boldness to steward it for His glory. You are not receiving this transfer because you're lucky. You're receiving it because you endured. Because you stayed faithful when it would have been easier to quit. Because you kept building even when no one saw it. Because you stayed in alignment even when it was lonely. Heaven watched you honor the process. Now heaven is honoring you with the promise. Don't you dare downplay what's coming. You didn't walk through years of fire just to hold a spark. This is an outpouring, a generational blessing. What you're stepping into will not only change your life, it will ripple through bloodlines, shift family trees, and set a new standard for what's possible through obedience. You've been refined in the dark. Now you're being revealed in the light. But this time, you're not chasing applause. You're chasing assignment. This isn't about flexing for social media. This is about fulfilling a spiritual mandate. You're not just about to receive wealth. You're about to redefine what wealth looks like in the kingdom. Wealth is wisdom. Wealth is strategy. Wealth is peace, authority, and influence used for God's purposes. And you have been chosen to carry all of it. Not for status, but for service. To bless others. To fund vision. To build what religion ignored. To revive what culture tried to cancel. To prove that God's favor doesn't just restore, it elevates. So prepare. Prepare your hands to handle new responsibilities without fear. Prepare your house, spiritually and physically. Declutter your space and your soul. Prepare your schedule, because divine appointments are coming. But most importantly, prepare your heart, because if your heart isn't right, the wealth will feel like a burden. But with a heart aligned with heaven, it will flow like living water. God is about to trust you with influence that reaches nations. You will bless those you've never met. You will lead in spaces you once felt disqualified from. You will carry the kind of anointing that money can't buy, the kind that transforms atmospheres. You're not just called to rise, you're called to reign. So walk tall, walk confidently, walk humbly but unapologetically. Because when God transfers wealth, he also transfers responsibility. And he chose you. You are the fulfillment of prophecy. You are the evidence of grace. You are the vessel of restoration. Now go and walk in the transfer. With power, with purpose, with authority. The struggle was never random. It was preparation. Every delay, loss, and closed door shaped you. You weren't being punished. You were being positioned. What felt like rejection was redirection. Your pain built a foundation only faith could stand on. And now, your hands are about to hold what your heart never let go of. You are the chosen one. Not because you're perfect, but because you stayed faithful. This is your moment. Doors are opening. Resources are shifting. The blessing is here. Get ready. It's transfer time. Conclusion. The weight of glory and the walk of the chosen. You didn't come this far by accident. Every battle you faced, every tear you cried in silence, every closed door that pushed you to your knees, it was all divinely orchestrated. Heaven never lost sight of you. While others overlooked you, misunderstood you, or even doubted your calling, God was watching. He was shaping you, stripping away what couldn't stay, and strengthening what must remain. And now, you stand on the other side of the storm, not broken, but built. Not bitter, but better. You are not who you were when the process began. You've been refined by fire, and the fire did not consume you. It commissioned you. You are stepping into a new realm, not with arrogance, but with assurance. Not with pride, but with power. You've earned your scars in the hidden places. Now they shine as proof of God's healing, favor, and faithfulness. This transfer is not about luxury. It's about legacy. It's not about being seen, it's about being sent. You were never just waiting for the promise. The promise was waiting for you to grow, to mature, to become the person who could carry it with integrity and purpose. That's why the doors didn't open prematurely. That's why the relationships fell away. That's why the silence felt unbearable at times. God was protecting the promise by perfecting you. Now, the time has come. But don't step into this season carelessly. Carry it with reverence. Recognize the weight of what you hold. This wealth, whether financial, spiritual, relational, or positional, is not for personal gain. It's for kingdom impact. It's for your children and your children's children. It's for the communities crying out for hope. It's for the restoration of dreams that religion buried and fear silenced. You are not here to blend in. You were called to stand out, not for applause, but for alignment. Not for comfort, but for calling. The world doesn't need another influencer chasing clout. It needs kingdom carriers who will bring light into darkness, order into chaos, and truth into deception. So, protect your heart in this season. The spotlight reveals, but it also exposes. Stay rooted in prayer. Stay anchored in humility. Stay committed to obedience. Don't let increase distract you from intimacy with God. The same God who sustained you in the valley must remain your source on the mountain. And remember this, favor is not a finish line. It's an invitation to go deeper, to lead with love, to steward with strategy, to speak when God says speak, and to be still when He says wait. You're not stepping into ease, you're stepping into elevation. And elevation requires discipline. It demands surrender. It expects fruit. But take heart, you were built for this. Not because you're flawless, but because you're faithful. Not because you're perfect, but because you're positioned. God looked at every part of your journey, the broken places, the healed wounds, the hidden prayers, and He said, yes, I can trust this one. So rise, not with fear, but with fire. Walk, not with doubt, but with destiny. Speak, not with hesitation, but with heavenly authority. This is your moment, but it's not just about you. It's about every soul connected to your obedience. Every vision tied to your yes. Every life that will be changed because you chose to answer the call. The transfer is here. The mantle is real. The assignment is holy. Now go carry it well. If this message has touched your heart and you wish to support our mission of spreading God's word, click on the thanks button. No gift is too small. Your generosity, even just a penny, can bring hope and joy to someone's life. Thank you for partnering with God in this important work.